Moving towards our next topic, that is what's in store for garment exporters to United States. This is related to your GS paper 3, growth and development, industrial policy and industrial growth. And the context of this topic is that the interim India-US trade agreement has boosted investor sentiment driven by the prospect of US tariffs on Indian exports falling to 18%. As you would be aware of the fact that earlier there was a 25% tariff that was announced on India plus a 25% additional tariff or kind of penalty that was announced on Indian exports, because India was trading with Russia. India was buying Russian crude oil which was available at cheap prices, especially after Russia-Ukraine war started. So what happened that recently an interim trade deal was finalized between India and United States, under which this increased tariff was rationalized to 18%, and that has boosted the sentiments of the sectors and the industries which are export oriented. For example, the textile sector, one of the major market for them was United States, and when there was this much of high tariff that was announced on India, the competitiveness of our products became very less. And that is the reason to boost that competitiveness, what the government did, they finalized the trade deal with the United States. And the Bangladesh also finalized the deal with the United States. And interestingly, Bangladesh is also one of the country which is having the robust textile sector, because they are one of the important producers of jute, etc. They have the huge population, and because of that the cheap and abundant labor is also available. So they have also one of the good textile sectors, one of the robust textile industry, and that is also one of the reason they are a kind of competition for India's textile sector. So the deal that US and Bangladesh finalized, under that US will allow zero reciprocal tariff for certain Bangladeshi textile and apparel exports. And what are those textiles? The textiles under which they will be linked to United States cotton and man-made fiber inputs. For example, if the Bangladeshi textile industry is taking cotton from United States, or they are taking man-made fiber from United States, which are the raw material that will be used for producing finished textile products, in that case they will be getting an zero reciprocal tariff by the United States. Also, recently our Commerce and Industry Minister Mr. Piyush Goyal said that India is also assured of similar access to the US market if they will be sourcing the raw material from the United States. If you compare the trade data between India and Bangladesh, so Bangladesh textile imports in 2024 was around $16.1 billion. From India, it was $3.1 billion. Bangladesh cotton imports was around 85 lakh bales per year. India exported around 12 to 14 lakh bales to Bangladesh in year 24-25. Bangladesh garment exports was in 2024 around $50.9 billion. And to United States, it was around $7.4 billion. So that shows that more than 15% was going to United States itself. That US is one of the major market of the Bangladesh garment exports, and that is one of the reason why they have finalized this trade deal. Also, India's garment export that has reached to $16 billion, and that is much less as compared to Bangladesh. Because for us, our domestic market is also one of the major source for our overall garment industry. And 1/3 of this garment export was going to United States, much greater than what Bangladesh was exporting. That is also one of the reason that when the tariffs were announced, textile sector was badly hit. If you talk about the trade dynamic, 63% of Bangladesh exports go to the European Union, and that is also duty free. That also makes their products more competitive. Bangladesh is dependent on the imported yarn and fabric. And to gain zero US tariff, it must first shift to the US cotton inputs. They have to source the cotton from United States, only then they will be getting zero tariffs. And for that, they will have to invest in spinning and processing capacity, because the raw cotton that they are getting, they will have to spin that, they will have to process that, they will have to make threads, only then it can be utilized for making garments or the finished product. If you talk about the India-US cotton trade, India is around 5 lakh bales of US cotton annually, and that is 2.5 lakh bales ELS and 2.5 lakh bales of non-ELS. ELS is extra long staple cotton that represents the length of individual cotton fiber used to make the fiber. And India imposes around 18% duty on cotton except this extra long staple cotton which is of good quality. The major concerns are there. For example, US tariffs on India is 18%, on Bangladesh it is 19%, earlier it was 20%. The tariff gap between India and Bangladesh has narrowed down, and that will make their products more competitive. Also, Bangladesh may shift from Indian to US cotton, because India was also one of the country which was supplying the cotton to Bangladesh. Because if the Bangladesh will start taking the cotton from United States, they will be getting the zero tariff. So they can start sourcing from US itself rather than India. So India may have to face the losses as two fronts. First of all, an export market in the form of the exports that we were doing of the cotton to the Bangladesh might get lost, and our exports of the garments and finished products that we were doing to United States may also diminish, because Bangladeshi products will become more competitive in the US market. Also, uncertainties are still there. For example, will India get the same market access as Bangladesh? Will India waive cotton import duty that it is imposing? How will duty-free quotas will be structured? All these details are still not yet final. So we can't have any clarity, and that is the reason uncertainties are looming for the textile sector. The possible benefits that garments using the cotton and man-made fiber may get tariff barrier, but US cotton may become costlier. Also, there is no clarity on rules for the cotton content in the garments, that any garment that we are exporting, if it is made from 100% cotton that is sourced from United States, only that will be getting the zero tariff, or any garment having 1% US cotton or 1% cotton, they will also be getting zero tariff. No clarity on that. If you talk about the background of textile and apparel sector of India, it contributes around 2.3% to GDP, 13% to industrial production, and 12% to export. And exports were around $34.4 billion in 23-24. And it is the second largest employment generator after the agriculture. Agriculture contributes around 46.1% to employment generation as per Economic Survey 24-25. And this textile and apparel sector is also contributing. They are also creating 45 plus million jobs, which are the direct jobs, and especially this is a sector where we have seen the more participation of women. So it is a women-centric sector, as well as rural workers are also being consumed by this sector itself. Recent trends, export is growing around 7% for the period of April to December 2024. Also, if you talk about this sector, it is MSME driven, that 80% of the capacity in this is based on the MSME, micro, small and medium enterprises clusters. Output that it is around 22,000 million garments annually. The global position, that currently 5th largest textile market with a target of 15 to 20% of growth over the next 5 years. Market size is also expected to grow rapidly by the year 2030, and it is expected to achieve $350 billion by 2030. Also, if you talk about the FDI in textile, that is not consistent. It is we can see that haphazard pattern in the FDI also, because of the policy uncertainties, the global geopolitics dimensions that keeps on changing. What are the major challenges in India's textile industry? So first of all, the tariff disadvantages and FTA. For example, we have the limited FTAs with the major market. With the United States, still we have only an interim trade deal. With European Union, we have already finalized a FTA, or the free trade agreement. Also, the high import duties on Indian apparel, that is up to 16 to 18%, that shrinks the accessibility to these markets. Also, competitors like Bangladesh, they get duty free access because they are the least developed country status. So that is the reason they also get further benefits. Vietnam, they have signed FTAs with US and EU. Although we have signed with EU, that has improved our market access. But Vietnam and Bangladesh, these are the countries, because of their economic status, they get further benefits, and that further limits the India's competitiveness. Then stagnant export growth, that export is hovering around $36 to 38 billion for 23-25 period. And apparel exports are also volatile due to weak global demand, and there is a very slow compoundable annual growth compared to the competitors like Vietnam and Bangladesh. For example, this is the data about the exports and import, where you can see that there has been a consistency. There hasn't been an overwhelming growth in the textile trades, whether it is the import or whether it is the export. Although we have a huge potential in the exports of the textile sector. Then other challenges, for example, high raw material cost, especially the polyester, viscose has become costlier than China. The cotton price volatility that is there, especially because of the dependency on the climate change related factors which can impact the overall production capability of the cotton sector. So that also impacts the overall cost of the raw cotton, and that because of this volatility the production cost also keeps on changing, and also we are witnessing that imports of the cotton is increasing, that is also leading to an additional cost. Also the quality control orders that are in place to ensure that whatever the garments that we are exporting, they are of the good quality, they are following whatever the norms that are by the global players. So that also limits the cheaper synthetic fiber imports. Then low cost competitiveness, and with regard to the imports of the synthetic fiber, there are quality control orders also, that what quality of the synthetic fiber can be imported. So because of that, when there are quality restrictions, so less number of import will be coming with regard to the synthetic fiber, and that will again add to an additional cost of the garments that are being produced by the synthetic fiber. Similar the restrictions are, or in the form of non-tariff measures, are with the exports of the textile sector also, that further limits the export competitiveness. Also low cost competitiveness because of the fragmented supply chain across states. We do not have a robust supply chain, or supply chain resilience is absent, and because of which we have the higher logistics, compliance and transaction cost. Competitors like China, Vietnam, they have vertically integrated model. Bangladesh, they have the low cost mass apparel production, especially community based processing etc. is very robust, that helps them in reducing the cost, and that makes them more competitive. Sustainability and compliance pressure is there. For example, buyer demands that products that are being produced, they are sourced from the renewable energy. There is proper focus on recycling and circularity. There is also focus on traceability of fibers, that how they whether there are chemicals that are in the residue or in the traces in the fiber. Also European Union sustainability regulations impacting the exports. Higher compliance cost for the MSMEs, that also leads to the they further face various issues with regard to the lack of proper knowledge, lack of proper capital, lack of proper robust technological access etc. The structural weaknesses, for example, cotton centric production structure, we are not focusing, or we are not shifting to man-made fibers and technical textiles which are majorly in demand. Small scale is the industry sector. The MSME heavy industries also, that also limits their overall growth. Low productivity versus global peers, that global peers has improved heavily on their productivity, that further limits the overall growth of the sector. Then what is the measures that has been taken by the government for this? So there is a PLI scheme, production linked scheme for the textiles also. There are different sectors, around 14 sectors, for which production linked incentive scheme was announced, which gives incentives to the companies based on the incremental sales. It will boost manufacturing for the man-made fibers and technical textiles. It will also encourage the large scale investment, because if investment will be done, and that will be done in better machineries, better technologies, that will reduce the cost of the production, and which will boost the incremental sales, or which will boost the sales of the company, and we will witness the incremental sales, and because of which the companies will get better incentives. The PM Mitra parks, that is integrated textile parks that we are developing, where the common infrastructure will be there, that will further reduce the overall capital cost. Also this focuses on plug and play model, that you have to come and you can just start the production. Then ATUFs that are being promoted, under which we are promoting the technology upgradation through the credit linked subsidies that are there. And amended technology upgradation fund scheme that was launched by the Ministry of Textiles in 2016, and that is the credit linked capital investment subsidy that is aimed at modernizing the textile industry. Then Samarth scheme, that is focusing on the skill development in the textile sector, so that we can further boost the overall sector. Textile cluster development scheme, that is developing the integrated textile clusters for the MSMEs. Then National Technical Textile Mission, that is promoting technical textiles through research and development, skilling and export. Technical textiles are the kind of textile that can actually fulfill the specific need. For example, let's suppose there is a need of a textile that can have a very high strength. So there can be a textile that can be developed with the high strength, or other certain other needs can be fulfilled. For example, if we want that it should be very smooth, it should be very lustrous etc. So those kind of needs can be fulfilled with better research and development skilling, and these technical textiles are also great in demand, so that can boost the exports of this sector also. Then Ministry of Textiles budget has also improved. cotton mission, which was launched to improve cotton productivity, especially extra long staple cotton, which is of good quality and which is also great in demand. Then tax exemptions on certain subtle less looms that will reduce the cost of modern machinery. High custom duty on knitted fibers, handicraft export facilitation, and MSME export and credit support that is being given to promote the manufacturing, credit access and exports. Now what should be done? What should be the way forward? First of all, we can focus on labor and infrastructure. Especially, we can develop some of the better parks and better infrastructure in the states where we have the huge workforce available. Especially, this will help in addressing the issue of disguised unemployment that is visible in the agriculture. Also, it will provide the employment in lean seasons, especially the cyclic unemployment that is witnessed when there is no agricultural work. Because states like Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh has a robust workforce available. And if we will focus on harnessing the potential of the textile sector in these states, we can get an abundant labor, and that too at the competitive cost, and that will help in making this sector more competitive. Then supply chain integration, we can have a vertically integrated textile park with a focus on fiber to fashion on hubs, that we can ensure that whatever the fiber that is being produced, that is being going towards the industries in a proper manner, plus ultimately it is reaching to its export destination without any wastage of time. That will reduce the overall cost, and that will ensure that the competitiveness of textile sector is intact. Then trade and man-made fiber push, because we have to understand that there is great demand for this particular man-made fiber products. Okay? So we can focus on this sourcing of the man-made fibers, and we can produce the garments from that because they are in great demand. Also, we need to push the free trade agreement that will help in ensuring that we have a better market access, we have the reduced tariffs, and that will ensure that the competitiveness of our products will become better. For example, let's suppose India has finalized the trade deal with the European Union. We are in process to finalize with United States. Then we are still in the stage to finalize the agreement with Gulf Cooperation Council and some other important organization. So we need to expedite this process because this will help in ensuring we are having a better market access and better reach. Then the man-made fiber production incentives can be given to certain companies because that will help them in shifting to better technologies, and the needs of the capital can be addressed. Then the green manufacturing for the MSMEs can also be promoted. That can help in textile recycling because the wastage that is coming, that can be utilized, or the discarded products etc. can be utilized further, and then some further better new products can be made from that, and that this will help in improving the circular economy, and this will also help in reducing the overall emissions from the sector. Then circular economy focus, for example, our Honorable Prime Minister also gave a vision of 5F, that is farm to fiber, fiber to factory, factory to fashion, and fashion to foreign. That whatever the farm is producing, that is reaching to factory, and whatever the factory is producing, that is according to the needs of the current fashion trends, and accordingly those fashionable products are reaching to foreign global markets, which will help in harnessing the export potential of this textile sector. This is a mains practice question that you people can write from this particular topic.